Hello again everyone. In this video I'm going to be talking about the path of the golf ball and how we can determine the vertex from the equation that we're given. As a reminder, we have the equation h equals negative 16t squared. That negative 16 was half of the acceleration because of gravity, and it's negative because it's going down. Again, the gravity is forcing the object down, and it's plus 100t. That 100 again represents the initial upward velocity of the flight of the object. So we're determining the vertex and describing its meaning. So let's start by setting up the same formula we would normally set up. Now ordinarily we'd have x equals negative b over 2a because that's our axis of symmetry formula. In this case we don't have an x, we have the letter t, so I just substituted that here instead of the x. So I plugged in the 100, the b value, I plugged in the negative 16, the a value, I simplified this, and I got a decimal answer. You'll notice that happening a lot in this section, mostly because the flight of these objects is not perfect. You're not going to see many objects that are in the air an integer amount of seconds or go to an integer height necessarily. So you want to keep in mind that you're going to be needing a calculator for a lot of the work we do this week. So here we have t equals 3.125. Now, we'll get to this in a moment again, but this is the axis of symmetry. This is essentially the time at which the object reaches its peak height. So you want to keep that into consideration as well. If you want to, I would recommend opening up a Desmos tab, maybe typing in the equation in, so you get more of a visual representation of this. Now, to find the y coordinate, so in this case to find the h, we want to plug in the x, or in this case the t, where the t was in our functions. We plug in the t there and there. We run some calculations. Notice again you're getting these longer decimal answers, not as neat and orderly as some of the questions we've done in the past, but they're still important to calculate accurately nonetheless. So run through those calculations by squaring the 3.125, multiplying by negative 16, and then adding the results of this multiplication problem, 312.5. After running through all those calculations, you get 156.25. That is your height, your peak height at the time 3.125. Meaning after 3.125 seconds, the ball will reach its peak height of 156.25 feet. I'm going to put up a Desmos graph of this in a moment, but I'd strongly encourage you, as you're doing these questions, to not just run the calculations, not just sort of copy the step-by-step process, but really take a moment here to figure out what those numbers mean in this situation. You'll be asked to determine that in a moment, but again, every time you're doing a new question, reread the scenario and really try to think of the scenario as it relates to the numbers that you're calculating and the answers you're determining.